We got 39 participants, so welcome everyone to the ASQ Synergy for Success. The conference name is From Lean to Green, Embedding Sustainability into Operational Excellence Programs. This is under the cutting edge track. So here we have the presenter is Fredie More Pablo, and just talking a little bit about Fredie. He's the Group Excellence Manager at Jaybor Group based in Sydney, Australia. He's an ASQ member and also hold a CMQ OE certification. He has a great passion for embedding circular economy principles into real-world manufacturing systems. Freddie brings a systems thinking approach into embedding quality, sustainability, and circularity into real-world manufacturing. He has over 7 years of experience in several sectors, including pharmaceuticals, packaging, construction, and infrastructure. And he has led several Lean Six Sigma events. He is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and a Scrum Master, and he uses data-driven strategies on platforms like SAP and Power BI to optimize processes. So with that being said, I am the moderator. My name is Paul Augustine. I'll try to make sure that the session is conducted on time, and we make sure that we try to get enough platform for enough Q&A at the end of this event. Just to keep a little bit of housekeeping rules. The presentation is for about 45 minutes, in which about 35 to 40 minutes would be the presentation, and we will try to address at least a minimum of 3 questions in the last 5 minutes. And if we cannot address that during the time frame, we will use the chat to respond to those questions as much as we can. So with that being said, once more, welcome everyone to the session. Freddie, it's all yours. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Paul. All right, what if I told you that the tools we've used to drive efficiency could be the very same tools that help us protect the planet? Good day, everyone. And here in Sydney, Australia, it's turning just 3 a.m. My name again is Fredie More Franco Pablo, and I want to open with a belief. I believe that operational leaders hold more power to shape a sustainable future than we often realize. Not because we make grand speeches or sign international treaties, but because we make decisions every single day. Decisions about how we source, how we build, how we ship, and how we improve. And those decisions, if made with intention, can create real measurable impact. Today, I'm going to share with you a new way of thinking, not about adding more to your plate, but about seeing sustainability as something that belongs on the plate of operational excellence. This is going to be a conversation about evolution, not about another obligation. And I promise you, it's only possible to be both efficient and ethical. It might also be the smartest strategy that we have. Let's begin. All right, so why this matters now? Let's talk about why. We're at a point in history where operational leaders are being asked to do something we've never been asked before. Keep things running, keep things profitable, and now, keep things sustainable. Yep, it's a lot. But here's the truth. We're not just starting from scratch. We already know how to solve complex problems. We already know how to reduce waste, improve flow, and align teams. What we need now is to take that same mindset. Yep, that the ones that made us great at quality, at speed, and efficiency, and aim it at something bigger. This session is about exactly that. I will walk you through global case studies, from Interface to Unilever to Toyota and Nestle. We will explore a simple framework to help integrate sustainability into operations. And I'll leave you with steps that you can take right now with the team you already have. Because when sustainability becomes part of how we do work, not just how we say in reports, everything changes. All right, so why operational excellence needs to go green? In operations, we've always been asked to solve problems, reduce downtime, cut waste, improve flow. We built our careers on finding smarter ways to run business. But the problem we're facing now, climate volatility, resource scarcity, supply chain shocks, they're hitting the same systems we've been trying to optimize all along. Sustainability isn't separate from this work. It shows up in how we use materials, in the way we consume energy, in the choices we make every day under pressure. If you work in quality or operations, you're already familiar with root cause thinking, yeah? You already know how to spot inefficiencies. What we need now is to widen that lens, to start asking different questions at the same checkpoints. Where does the waste go? How hard are we running this system? And for what long-term value? Sustainability becomes a natural part of the conversation when we start to treat impact, yeah, the same way we treat downtime, defects, or safety. That's where things begin to change from inside out. Shifting from compliance to commitment. I've been in organizations where sustainability shows up in the annual report, in the policy folder, maybe in a slide during induction. But when I talk to the people running operations, they'll often say, we know it's important, but it's not part of how we work day to day. Yep, same. You have some similar scenarios like that. That's where the disconnect is. And it's not about, bad intentions. It's just that the goals were never really built into the way teams operate. Meanwhile, the companies making real progress, they have found ways to bring it into the routine. You see it in how shift leaders run the huddles, in how issues are flagged, in the kinds of questions people ask during root cause analysis. Sustainability becomes something you feel in the culture, not just in the reports. And that's when the momentum starts to build. Quietly at first, then across sites, then across the whole team. And suddenly, it's no longer a separate conversation. It's just how the business runs. All right, so let's start with the first case study, Interface Incorporated. So let me tell you a story about Interface. They're a global manufacturer of carpet tiles, a category that doesn't exactly scream innovation or climate leadership. But over the last 2 decades, Interface has done something most companies only talk about. They set out to become carbon negative. And they didn't just set the goal, they re engineered their entire business to make it real. One of the boldest moves they've made was to start treating carbon like a defect. Yep, think about that. In manufacturing, we have systems that hunt down defects, eliminate waste, and improve over time. Interface applied that same logic to their emissions. They redesigned products, rethought raw materials, and pushed suppliers to innovate. And what's the result? Some product lines saw up to 96% reduction in carbon footprint. And all of this came from a shift in perspective, seeing carbon not as an environmental metric, but as something that doesn't belong in a well-run process. That's the kind of thinking that can change industries. All right, let's move to the next case study, Unilever. Unilever is a name we all know, but what's impressive isn't just the size of the company, it's how they managed to shift a business that complex toward more sustainable ways of working. They didn't just write a strategy, but embedded it into the everyday decisions. One of the smartest things they did was to put sustainability into the hands of their manufacturing and supply chain teams, not just the corporate sustainability office. They trained factory managers to look at energy use the same way they look at downtime. They integrated environmental impact into performance reviews. They made sure procurement, research and development, and logistics were all speaking the same language. That kind of alignment doesn't happen by accident. It comes from the belief that sustainability is part of what it means to run a responsible, high performing business. And the results are real, from reducing water and energy use in factories to rethinking, product packaging at scale. What can we learn from Unilever is this. Change doesn't have to start big, but it does have to be owned by the people doing the work. We have some questions. All right, so we don't have it, but yeah, carbon is defect, mindset shift. Yep, thanks Malika for that comment. All right, let's move on to our next case study, Toyota. Most people know Toyota for lean manufacturing. Yep. What's less talked about is how they're applying that same mindset towards environmental performance. At their plants in Europe, for example, they've been working on becoming carbon neutral, but they're not doing it through a flashy sustainability overhaul. They're using the same tools they've always used: daily problem solving, continuous improvement. The teams running those plants are finding ways to cut energy use, reduce emissions, and optimize their transport, all built into their existing systems. They're also looking upstream, sourcing the materials closer to where they're used, adjusting operations based on renewable energy availability, and rethinking waste from a process perspective. Nothing about this looks radical, but that's what makes it work. It's not just a side project, but a part of the day to day. And that's what Toyota has always been good at: giving people the tools and trust to improve the system they're part of. Moving on to our next case study, Nestle. So we all know Nestle as well. Nestle is a giant, thousands of products, hundreds of factories, global supply chains. When they started pushing harder on sustainability, they didn't just focus on big headlines. They looked at the guts of the business, how things get made, moved, and monitored. A lot of their progress has come from embedding sustainability into how their operations teams work, not by adding new layers, but by baking it into what already exists. They've been working on energy and water efficiency at site level. They've been redesigning packaging to cut emissions and waste. And they have set up internal programs where teams can share ideas across factories, almost like cross-functional continuous improvement, but with a carbon lens. What stands out to me is that they're using operational thinking, not just a corporate strategy, to move this forward. They've made it a part of how performance is tracked and how leaders are measured, which means this isn't sitting on a shelf in the head office. It's moving through teams, it's being acted on, and it's scaling because it's practical, right? Now we're gonna move on to the five pillar framework as I brand it. So let's talk about how we actually bring this new mindset to life. What I've found through both research and experience is that sustainability doesn't land well when it's treated like an initiative. It needs structure, and more importantly, it needs to sit inside the way teams already work. That's why I built this framework. 5 core pillars that help organizations embed sustainability into their operational excellence programs. Okay, so the first pillar is leadership, not just at the top, but across functions. People need to see that this work matters to the business, not just the brand. Second, data and visibility. If you cannot measure it, yep, you cannot manage it. And that includes energy use, waste, and emissions alongside traditional KPIs. Okay. The third is process design. This is where sustainability becomes real. When we start designing systems with circularity, efficiency, and resource use in mind. Fourth pillar is technology enablement, not tools for the sake of it, but smart, integrated tech that helps team make better decisions in real time. And finally, culture and capability. Because no matter how strong the system is, if people aren't engaged or equipped, it won't last. These 5 areas, when aligned, create the conditions for sustainability to scale, not just as a project, but as part of how the business operates. All right, let's dive in more on each pillars. Starting with the leadership alignment. Every transformation, I've seen, whether it's quality, safety, digital, or sustainability, it starts and stalls with the leadership team. People don't take direction from a slide deck. They take it from what leadership or what leaders prioritize, what gets talked about in meetings, what gets followed up. If sustainability is only coming from a corporate email or a town hall once a year, it's never going to stick. But when team leaders ask about emissions the same way they ask about rework, when plant managers talk about energy like they talk about uptime, when executive connect sustainability goals to business outcomes, that's when the teams start to believe that it matters. And here's the thing, leadership isn't just the C suite, it's the team leaders, the continuous improvement managers, site supervisors, everyone who influences how works get done. If those leaders are aligned and supported, momentum builds. If they're unsure or unengaged, the program fades. Leadership isn't a pillar because it sounds good. It's a pillar because nothing moves without it. Next one, integrated metrics. If you want something to improve, you have to measure it. Familiar? But just as important, you need to measure it in the same breath as everything else that matters. That's what integrated metrics are all about. When sustainability sits in a separate dashboard, reviewed once a quarter, it gets treated like an afterthought. But when energy use, carbon emissions, water consumptions, and material waste are tracked alongside quality, cost, and delivery, they start influencing real decisions. I've seen teams shift the way they run morning stand-ups just by including a single line on energy or scrap. It's not about adding complexity. It's about making sustainability part of the same rhythm, the same language operation teams already lived and breathe. Because the truth is, if the metrics aren't integrated, neither is the mindset. And integration is what drives momentum. Next one, digital enablement. The goal of digital enablement isn't to add more tools. It's to remove friction. The best digital systems don't just collect data, they surface the right insights for the right people at the right time. I've seen teams move from static spreadsheets to live dashboards, and suddenly decisions that used to take a week to happen in the same shift. Imagine your maintenance tech seeing not just asset health, but energy spikes tied to machine settings, or your planner adjusting production runs based on forecasted solar availability. That's digital enablement with purpose. But it only works when the tools are embedded into the daily flow of work, not bolted on, not siloed, not for just a show. It has to feel like an extension of the job, not an extra task. When digital tools help people see more, move faster, and waste less, that's when technology becomes transformation. Right. Next one, green lean thinking. Lean thinking has always been about eliminating waste. Yeah. But what if we expanded our definition of waste? Not just defects or delays, but wasted energy, wasted materials, wasted opportunity. Green lean thinking pushes us to see sustainability as intrinsic to process excellence. Imagine value stream mapping that includes carbon flows or Kaizen events that don't just target cost, but resource impact. The same mindset that drives continuous improvement, root cause analysis, standard work, PDCAs can be used to reduce emissions, water usage, and packaging waste. I've seen teams reduce landfill waste by 40% just by tweaking a cleaning cycle, or slash energy use by adjusting idle time on a production line. This is lean thinking with a longer horizon. It's about designing processes that flow better and leave less behind. Because when you bring lean and green together, you don't just improve the performance, you future proof it. All right, I'm just seeing some comments in there. All right, okay. You guys have some questions? Feel free
Great.
to add in into the comments
Yeah, getting some
section or
great
chat
comments,
section.
Freddie. Yeah, if I
Awesome.
have, I'm watching the comment section, and then if there is anything in there, I'll step in.
For sure, for sure. Alrighty, where are we? Moving on to the last pillar, capability and culture. Let me say this plainly. Systems don't transform organizations. People do. And when it comes to sustainability, the difference between a fleeting initiative and lasting change is what your people believe and know how to do. Culture isn't your posters or slogans. It's what happens when no one's watching. It's the habits, the norms, decisions made on the floor or in that 10-minute huddle. If we want sustainability to stick, we have to build it into the daily rhythm. We need to invest in capability, not just carbon literacy or compliance, but helping teams connect the dots between their actions and their impact. Imagine if your maintenance tech saw saving energy as part of their job, or your planner adjusted schedule to reduce waste, not just hit throughput. That doesn't come from a one off training, it comes from leadership, trust, and repetition. Culture isn't the last thing we fix, it's the first thing we grow. All right, coming from that five pillar framework, we're now moving on to the implementation guide. So, big change starts with small, deliberate steps. And if you're wondering how to actually start embedding sustainability into your operations, this is the roadmap I'd share. Yep. Step one is simple, but often skipped. Assess where you are now. Walk the floor. Talk to your teams. Look at your processes with fresh eyes and ask, Where are we leaking energy, time, and resources? Yeah, Gamba, that's a familiar topic for everyone, I suppose. Step two, set goals and metrics that matter. Not just what's easy to measure, but what's meaningful. What's get tracked, gets talked about. Step three, engage your people early. Don't build a strategy behind closed doors. Invite the operators, the engineers, the planners. Ask them where the opportunities are. Chances are they already know. Step four, pilot something small. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Trial that new cleaning process, that material swap, that energy saving cycle. Learn, adapt, and grow from there. And finally, step five, scale and sustain. Standardize what works, embed it in routines, celebrate progress, share results, and keep momentum going. Because change doesn't have to be massive to be meaningful. It just has to move forward, one smart step at a time. All right, so standards and frameworks. When we talk about sustainability in operations, one of the biggest questions I get is how do we know we're doing it right? Yeah, that's where standards and frameworks help. They give us common language, a structure, a way to track progress that's more than just good intentions. Let me walk you through a few of the key ones. Before that, let me just check if we have questions on the chat.
No questions yet.
Questions. Awesome. Yep. I think this slide will also give us some resources to check and start from. All right. So we're familiar with ISO 14001, Environmental Management Systems. This one's the classic. ISO 14001 is a global standard for how to set up environmental management system. It helps companies identify, manage, and reduce their environmental impact across waste, energy, water, emissions, and more. And the best part, it's scalable. Whether you're a global manufacturer or a single site operation, it meets you where you are. GRI, Global Reporting Initiative. GRI is all about transparency. It provides detailed guidelines for sustainability reporting, how to disclose environmental, social, and governance performance in a way that stakeholders, investors, and regulators can understand. If you're publishing a sustainability report, this is probably what you're aligning with. Yeah. Next one, SASB, Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. So AASB focuses on what materials to your specific industry. Because let's be honest, what matters to a mining company is very different from what matters to a software company. So SASB helps businesses prioritize ESG factors that are financially relevant, linking sustainability directly to risk and value. SBTI, or Science Based Targets Initiative. This one's growing fast. SBTI helps companies set emissions reduction targets that are aligned with climate science, specifically with the goals of the Paris Agreement. It turns vague climate commitments into measurable, credible action plans. So, no, these aren't just certifications to hang on the wall. They're decision making tools. They build trust internally with your teams, externally with your customers and stakeholders. And they're how we move from intention to execution without reinventing the wheel every time. At the stars. Right. Next one, cross-industry benchmarking. One of the most valuable tool in any leader's back pocket, benchmarking, especially across industries. When we only compare ourselves, to companies that look just like us, we miss out. But when we step outside our bubble, when a logistics team look at FMCG or a construction firm borrows from healthcare, we open up possibilities. Let me give you an example, yeah? The circular economy strategies used by consumer goods giants, they're starting to influence how mining companies design reuse systems for waters and tailings. The real-time energy dashboard used in smart buildings, they're being adapted by food manufacturers to reduce thermal waste in processing lines. That is the beauty of cross-industry benchmarking. It shows us what's possible, not just what's typical. Yeah. And right now, we need more of that because the climate challenge doesn't care what sector you're in. So benchmark bravely. Don't be afraid to ask who's doing this better than us, even if they're in a totally different game. That question alone can change your trajectory. Yep. All right. Reflection questions. I want to shift gears for a moment. We've gone through case studies, frameworks, pillars. Now I want to give you space to breathe, think, and maybe sketch something down. This next part isn't about just a theory. It's about you and what might actually change when you go back to work. So I've got few questions, simple, honest questions. First one, what's your team's first step? Feel free to answer this in the chat. Yeah, everyone. What's your team's first step? Not your company, not your CEO, just your team. What's the first conversation worth having? What's something you could try, test, or shift this quarter, this month, next week? Take a second. You probably already know what it is. Yep, I've got a good question here. Should they create their own standards? So the slide I've shared, like the frameworks, like instead of us every time going to reinvent the wheel or starting from scratch, these are the good frameworks that we can use as reference to start with. And this has been proven by a lot of companies that already did some progress on their sustainability journey. So I would suggest to start from these references, read about, like the suggestions in terms of how we can implement it. Same with the application of the simple framework that we have discussed earlier. That's a good starting point. So I got some good questions coming in here. What's the first step? Let me just read some of it. From Darcy, organize with the group on the floor to see if they have suggestions. Yep, exactly right. Like people closest to the process. As I mentioned, they might already know where the opportunities are. From Anila, keeping them on board, initiating ideas. Yep, having that visibility of, like the suggestions and also putting in some accountability for the leaders. It doesn't end from the idea generation. It gives the team some visibility and updates of whether it's actually being actioned on. Um, from Karen, what aspects of waste should we measure? I would say, Karen, like first thing is like keep things simple, right? Having the visibility of, really how much waste are we generating? And, if you're doing the segregation of waste in your plant or in your facilities and partnering with the waste companies, you can have visibility of the waste in terms of the volume or the weights that the site is generating and start from there. Having a baseline of where to improve is really a big, great step. From Kara, determine mission statement, common goals, vision. Yep, exactly right. Team alignment. What is, what should be the team's focus. And if everyone's on it, they have the buy-in, everyone has engagement.
Hey, Freddie, just 10
Yep.
minutes warning.
Yeah, oh good. I've already been incorporating the question and answers anyway in here.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
yep. Um, from Jerry, brainstorm for areas needing improvement to identify. Yep, agreeing. From M, brainstorm, initiate ideas, implement small improvements. Exactly right. From Cheryl, follow up on previous ask the lean team to allow. Yep, exactly right. Really good questions and first steps. All right. Second question. What process in your company could benefit from a sustainability lens? Yep. Look around. Is there a process that runs on autopilot? One that nobody's challenged in years? Like what if you did this? What if you looked at it not just for cost or speed, but for environmental impact or long-term value? It might be packaging, logistics, reporting, procurement, anything. Which one's calling for a rethink? From Darcy, product development. Yep. Right. Feel free to add in more. I'll proceed to the next question. What resource? Oh, from Lisa. Providing handheld devices instead of using multiple forms on site visits. Yep, exactly right. Yeah, I've been working on like currently this transformation project, removing from multiple ERPs currently into a single platform. And one of the initiatives we're looking at in our operation is the use of mobile devices. Not just instead of printing a lot of paperwork from the receiving process to the outbound process, what if operators use a handheld device in scanning the products that we sell? So it saves, like the paper that's required to be printed, at the same time, the effort that's needed from the operators. Um, Sourcing direct and indirect. Yep. Thanks, Cheryl. Third one, what resource flow could you map today? Again, I'll stress this more. Energy, water, waste. Where is it coming from? Where is it going? What's leaking? You don't need a full-blown audit to get started, yeah? You need curiosity and maybe a few sticky notes on a wall. That's how most real change begins. Making all related apps to communicate from Bucola. Yep, exactly right. From technology enablement to integrations of metrics. That's correct. Yep, so the third one is really important. And I guess, from this session today, energy, water, waste, I'd like you to bring that back into your teams. Like in a quick single, energy, information source point. Do we know how much of these we use and we generate? Because if you cannot answer that easily, then we're far from improving the way we operate in terms of sustainability lens. Having just the visibility of those three things is a big step, but requires simple effort.
Freddie, in 2 minutes, we have to get through the Q&A.
Yep, for sure.
We have one in Q&A, actually.
Awesome. All right. Where are we? And the last one. What's one action you could start this month? Not a grand initiative, not a transformation program. Just one thing that matters, that builds momentum. Could be a dashboard, a team huddle, a new KPI on the board, something visible, something people notice, and something you can say, we started here. All right. Might be one of my last few slides left. Call to action. All right, so where do we go from here? If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, good. Yeah, that means you care. But don't let that stop you from taking the first step. Again, start small. You don't need a massive initiative. Just pick one process, one small part of your operations, and look at it through a sustainability lens. Ask, where's the waste? Where's the opportunity? It could be your supplier packaging, how your team print documents, or how meetings are run. The point is to begin. Next, measure what matters. Start tracking resource flows, energy, water, materials alongside your usual KPIs. Because what gets measured gets well noticed. And you don't need a perfect dashboard on day one. You just need to start seeing clearly. Next, involve your team. Don't do this alone. Sustainability thrives in daily conversations, in improvement huddles, in those, hey, why do we do it this way moments. Make it visible, make it shared, let people own it. And the last one, share and scale. Celebrate the small wins. That's how culture shifts from siloed initiatives to everyday habits. All right. Let me leave you with this. Change starts with action. Pick one initiative, find one metric, start one conversation. The momentum grows from there. This isn't just a quotation, it's a reminder for everyone. We don't need grand plans to make difference. We need small, intentional steps that build trust, create movement, and shift culture. And if you're waiting for the perfect moment, it's already here because the best time to start is when you care enough to try.
Beautiful
Thanks,
presentation,
everyone.
Freddie. Thank you so much. And I can only take away, a couple of two things that I actually take away from this presentation is like one, quality is to see that as a defect. To see carbon as a defect is beautiful. It's a beautiful way and smart way to drive sustainability. And I also believe lean and green can really be synonymous, depending on where you're at, right? We do have one question in the Q&A from Kara, that what are the main challenges and solutions when you're trying to implement this program, right? I mean, we never really talk about the number of organizations and people that have actually tried and failed. The limelight is always to the organizations that find their way to make this program successful. So I think Chris' question is very relevant, right? What are the main challenges? What do you think they are, Freddie?
The main key challenge for me, is resistance to change of people. Like we could implement anything, any grand or simple initiative, but if we don't have the buy-in of our stakeholders, nothing will change. So start with, increasing the awareness of people on the why. Why do we need to do this now? Why we need to do or make our operations greener? Because if the people are clear with the why, then the buy-in and engagement is there, then the next step should be easier. Yeah.
Sure. I do have one other question.
Yep.
What do you think the most of the organizations get their first spark and drive from? Is it management? Is it people? Is it government? What do you think they should start somewhere? Or where do you think the first spark come from for all the change?
It should all start from everyone, like if we all care enough about our planet, yeah, that's a shift in mindset, right? Like it's not about just compliance alone. That's the traditional way of thinking, comply, and it ends there. It should start from everyone caring enough for the planet, and yep, it should start from everyone and not from compliance checklist and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think I don't see any other questions in the chat. I do want, if you have other additional questions, if you have access to the chat, feel free to type it in. And Freddie or myself will be able to reply as needed. But Freddie, if you have actually been watching the chat, you're getting a lot of beautiful comments. This is awesome. So
Thanks everyone. Really
there is one,
appreciate it.
there is one question from the beginning. Are you willing to share this presentation with everyone?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay, so thank you so much, Freddie. Participants, you'll be getting a copy of presentation from Freddie, and then look forward to that.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right,
team. Have a great
thank you
day.
all.